call the meeting to order. It's a new day and a new year, and we welcome everyone here tonight. And I think make sure our microphones are on. I see a few red dots blinking there. I appreciate everyone for showing up tonight. This will be the first meeting of a new county commission since, I guess, 2009. Ted Rumley has been our former chairman for many, many years and will be greatly missed, along with our vice chairman, Robert Goff. And this will also be first meeting for Bob Woods and Dr. Bill Pullen. We welcome both of them to the board. So, and myself. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, myself, Don Townsend. So thank you for being here. This is our workshop, the regular workshop of the Dade County Board of Commissioners, being held today, January 2nd, 2025, here at 6 p.m. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
No, I'm good.
Our clerk, by the way, we don't have a county clerk yet, so our deputy clerk is stepping in here to help tonight, and she also serving as our CFO.
But in terms of hiring a county clerk, that would happen in the actual meeting itself?
Yeah, it would.
Okay.
It would be under new business in the regular agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. No amendments. All right, we'll move ahead. So place the approval of the agenda on the consent agenda. Approval of the previous meeting minutes. All commissioners have been given about a month to review those. They're online on our site called Assembly. Any amendments, additions, edits to those? Hearing none, we'll add that to the consent agenda for approval. A review of the personnel status report. No major changes. There was a question a minute ago if a termination means we terminated someone, but that can mean anything from they just resigned, quit, retired. It's just a universal term. So
I've got one question on personnel.
Okay.
I know at the budget hearing last year, we had allotted money for an extra building maintenance person.
Right.
Have we hired that person yet?
We have not.
All right, and then have we hired a new person in administrative?
We have.
Could you explain that one?
Yeah, Caleb is sitting over at the table. Caleb Bradley, and he will be my administrative assistant. Under the enabling legislation, the county executive has the power to appoint an executive assistant. So that's who I have chosen for mine. And that was budgeted.
Okay, and then on the building maintenance guy, what is the reason we've not had any applications or?
I don't know. We haven't had time. It's the second day of the year. I've only been here for 8 hours in charge, so I haven't had a chance to hire anyone yet. So we'll take a look at that.
Did you say building maintenance?
Yes.
Is that posted somewhere?
It says total head count
No,
4 and
It's not, okay.
active head count 4.
Well, this is, last year we budgeted to hire an extra person in July. I was just wondering where we was at on that process.
Yeah, so we need to get something
Oh, I see.
posted and,
Yeah. Right now, we basically have Jared,
yeah,
and it's tough.
yeah.
He runs his legs off all day long.
Okay.
So really, it's a one or two person, additional 1 or 2 people for that position.
Yes.
But right now, yeah. Any other questions?
Not on personnel, no.
Hearing none, we'll add that consent agenda. Board appointments and proclamations. We have a resolution. This was actually left over from last month, so we'll need to reassign that a new number. I forgot to do that, but anyway. So it was resolution R-36-24, so we'll figure it's probably going to be R-06-25. And that's the appointment of a member to the Water and Sewer Authority representing Lookout Mountain.
Yeah, that was partially my fault because I was sick and I was out. So I think there was some miscommunication.
Okay.
But I'm gonna keep Dan on.
Okay.
We've had some good conversations, and he feels that he's getting what he needs to know under his feet, and he's ready to serve a few more, so.
I have a general question.
Okay,
The Water and Sewer Authority, is there a rep for each district?
yes.
I just want to clarify that as
Yeah.
we're going forward.
We attempt to do that, one member from each district.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes if it's hard or impossible to find that person, we can, add someone from a different part of the
I
county.
understand, I just
The
wanted to
goal
clarify
is-
that, yeah.
And it can be very hard.
Okay.
The goal, is to get someone from each area of the county. All right, so we're adding Daniel Glacier, as recommended by Commissioner Bradford, back to as a reappointment to the member of the Water and Sewer Authority to represent Lookout Mountain, and I think that's a 4-year term, commencing January 1st, 2025, or today, the 2nd, expiring 12/31/2028. Any discussion? All right, we'll add that to the consent agenda. Approval of SPLOST. We have emergency medical services. I'll ask those guys to come up if they will. This is for emergency medical services capital equipment from Stryker Medical Sales LLC.
Thank you, Commissioners, for listening to us here. We have some options to replace some of our LifePak cardiac monitors that we have. We've had these 2 that are going obsolete, and we were doing our maintenance earlier this fall. One of them actually completely went down, would not turn on, and it's Stryker Physio Controls into the life support of those 2 that we have. The reason we expedited to get it in, they were giving us some end-of-the-year pricing and trade-in for these older units for the newer LifePak 35s. We also were asking for another stretcher, a power stretcher, and a power lift that actually helps go lift the patient and into the ambulance easier on the contracted laborers that we have as Memorial EMS employees. For one of the trucks that we have, it's got like 50,000 miles on it. It's one that we bought on a CARES Act grant back in, I think, mid-19 or early 20. And it's one of the trucks I don't like to use because you have to manually lift everything in it. And so once we seen what they were doing, and once this one went out completely and it's not repairable, and they're not going to put it on our maintenance plan that we currently have on our stretchers, our lift systems, our cardiac monitors, our Lucas CPR machines, and everything we pay to have that stuff completely either replaced if it's bad or battery replacements, and they come up every year, and they have to certify those machines that read cardiac as well. So they come back with us to give us an offer to let us trade in our 2 old machines for giving us a rebate back nearly of $17,000. They also done an end of the year promotion. The new LifePak 35 lists for $51,400. They gave us they give us a discount, or their cut end of the year promotions down to $37,004, and will give us another $7,000 off of that to purchase. Those 2 that we purchased there in 2011 were nearly $35,000 that we purchased in SPLOST back when Lifeguard, maybe it was Puckett EMS, started with us, excuse me. We bought 2 of them because we also supplied an ambulance during that time. Also, the power load system has retailed at $34,000. They're cutting it down to $26,800. The power cot is $33,300. They're discounting that down to $26,700. So for those 3 items, they're almost discounting $28,557. And then the allowed trade-in that we're going to have with the 2 older LifePak 15s trading in, we're almost getting $45,000 discount up front on top of the quote that you have before you. The original quote for the 2 LifePak 35s, the batteries, the adapter kit, power cord, the pediatric sensors, the adult sensors, the the blood pressure cuff for infant, pediatric, small adult, large adult, extra large adult, the printer cable, or the printer that's actually in it that prints the EKG off that we can be shown to the doctors. The storage box that keeps it protected, and then one power load and one power cot come to the, and plus shipping is $141,848.11, and with a discount, it would be $127,014.17. And we'd like to request that replacement and add a power lift system to one of the ambulances.
All right, we'll go around the table. Mr. Hartline?
I talked to Alex earlier today. I don't have a big issue with this. What I would like to see before, 120 days before the end of the year, before the end of our contract, is to look at maybe some other alternative instead of supplying Memorial all this equipment to do our runs. As of now, we've done went into the new contract, so I'm good with this, but I'd like to make it known now that I would like to look for a different alternative. I know that we had Puckett prior to this, but Puckett's been bought out now, so maybe the bigger company's a better suit for us than one.
They were bought out when they were with us.
They was bought out again as well.
Priority was.
They bought out again as of now.
Well, there've been several, and Catoosa's still using them, and we've got a contact with them, and, yep.
As far as getting this equipment, as of now, I'm good with it. I just think before the end of the year, we need to discuss this in depth.
Okay. Mr. Pullen? Mr. Pullen? You got any questions?
No, I mean, I don't see any problem with asking for other bids or anything, and then we can compare apples to apples.
Okay.
But I think CHI has been doing a whole lot better job than anything we've had before, let me put it that way. But we can still look. It doesn't cost anything to look.
Regarding the striker, are you happy with this tonight? The 120, is it 127,000?
Yes.
Striker and physio control, I mean, that's the Mercedes of, you know, and these things allow somebody to go through the door. The paramedic can hand an EKG. If it's showing a STEMI, they can go straight to the cath lab. You can transmit with them. Early defibrillation and early CPR are only two things that have really been shown to increase survival, and those are essential to all. Well, you can do CPR without them, but they're really good stuff.
Okay.
And our AEDs that we put around throughout all of our facilities, several churches has contacted us. I know Trenton Methodist, Trenton Church of Christ, several others have bought the same AEDs of physio control. So if something does happen, you just plug and play. The paramedic, whoever we go with, we would like to see keeping the same thing. They can turn around and hand that person the set of pads off the LifePak 15 to put that AED back in service. Those pads are very expensive, and that's one of the things that we've been encouraging everybody that calls and asks us as emergency services, what would you like? We ask them to do the LifePak 1000s, and it's just a quick way to keep going. If you waste time ripping them things off and putting the things back on for pacing and defibrillating, you can plug and play and keep going. You know, physio control's been around a long time. The original ones I've seen here go back into the 90s at physio control. The other brand is like Zoe and Phillips, but they're just a good, durable system that seems to work. And then we really invested with the ARPA funds to make sure they're at every public building. Or 3 of them at the sports complex. We just put 4 in the city, and we're going to put the same outside consoles in the city at the parks as well.
Mrs. Bradford?
Well, I mean, I feel like we live so far out from a hospital, you can't do it without it. So, I would rather have all that we need than not. I mean, you think about people all the way, Head River, Rising Fawn,
Yeah, all the ones y'all.
Timing is crucial.
Even the ones approved with the fire services.
Chattanooga either.
Oh, yeah. I've been there, done that, and have been in the position of life or death, and it's very important.
Mr. Woods?
Yes, I concur with the purchase of $127K, right, for this equipment, but I have a question.
Yes, sir.
all the many ambulances and support vehicles that you have right now.
Yes, sir.
This is demonstrating my ignorance here. All those vehicles, they're managed and operated by us now?
100% the vehicles and equipment is.
Yes, okay.
Myself
So
and Chief
it's
Director.
our responsibility to maintain them over time, right?
We do. We got a very
Whether we have
stringent.
Memorial or whoever we have.
Even when Puckett was here before,
Yes.
we supplied one truck and they supplied one truck.
Okay,
We've been doing that since 2011 nearly.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
and when it come with the new negotiation before almost 4 years ago, we rebid everything out. Puckett Priority chose not to bid. Memorial, Mara, Med, I believe, and AMR was the three that bid. And we done a 3-year contract with CHI Memorial, Georgia, with 3 1-year options. And as Commissioner Hartline the thing says that 120 days prior to January 31st, our contract takes effect February 1.
Okay.
Us and Walker are on the same year because we usually work with our neighbor because of the
I understand.
corner system we have for backup. And we've been in mutual aid agreement with them since 2009 when CHI or Tri-County Hutchinson quit us. We went with Lifeguard at that time, and Walker done their own ambulance service with their fire department, and we still had mutual aid agreement with them, which means we still could if we had another service in here, but you try to look at help to your neighbor, the only one that legally you can bring help from.
Well, we got the first base tonight with this. This is critical, right? Mandatory, got to have. And what I'd ask, Director, is think long-term now about that equipment that's in there and what the service, right, for each needs to be, or replacement or whatever.
We are, yeah.
Yes.
That's why with the maintenance package we have with Stryker, it's called ProCare. They let us know, and they just let us know. They were just up, I believe, in November, Kyle, doing the testing, or October. They come up every year, and that's when we found out.
Good, okay, because, that's something that we'll have to, as we're thinking long-term, right?
Yeah, you're trading the ones.
The 2 oldest ones that's not supported anymore for the 2 new ones, and our other 3 or other 4 were purchased in CARES Act funding, so 1920. So we've got some time, but we'll be looking ahead if we're still in this same boat to help provide equipment.
Good, okay.
So yes, we keep a very maintenance on equipment, trucks. That every one of those contractors or that Memorial crew checks in every day with a system we have of operative IQ. How many miles are on that truck? What does the sticker say on that truck? They're checking everything from cracks in the windshields. And then we physically look at them ourselves.
Okay. Now, who makes sure that the oil changes, I know this will sound basic, but who makes sure that oil changes and tune-ups and all that kind of stuff?
We do, in Billy's shop. Myself, Kyle, we do all the maintenance in our shop.
Very good.
If it's not done here, it's done through Ford, because there are some things that are warranty that our shop just not comfortable doing.
I understand, okay. That's good to know.
Yes, sir, we keep a very detailed, and even at Billy's shop, every unit's got a number. He's got a detailed maintenance list of everything that's done. They fill out a detailed worksheet. That worksheet on those ambulances, the copies are brought up here. Memorial pays for all that maintenance that we feel is needed, tires, oil changes. We've had a rear main seal put in one, turbos, air conditioning system.
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah,
yes, sir.
That explains a lot to me. I appreciate it.
I've been that since I've been here over that, yes, sir.
I understand. Thank you.
Because those things run, they're a hot swap vehicle. They don't stop when they run a lot. They run hard to the call. They run hard to the hospital. They idle on scenes for hours at times and at the hospital. And they don't get a break like a patrol car does. They're constantly running, A, B, and C shift. And then we flip them every oil change when, like the other backup units we showed you, or if something went down, like the 2 that's down now for an air conditioning part and another turbos went out. We've got one backup of the 2 that if one of them goes down, and we manage that in-house too.
Okay.
Middle of the night, rainy, whatever we got to do. And we got a backup with Memorial. If we are completely down, they'll try to get us a backup truck over here.
Very good.
But that could take time.
All right. So we have the Emergency Medical Services Capital Equipment for Stryker. This is to be paid out of SPOS for $127,014.17. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll add that to consent agenda for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Now I'll ask Mrs. Elizabeth Zeller and whoever to come up with the Water and Sewer Authority. This is regarding matching grant funds for an 8-inch main water line replacement under I-24.
Yes. So we had a pilot bore that failed going across I-24. So now our next step is to take the line in an existing casing to go underneath the interstate to get to the other side. And with that, we're gonna have to put the sewer and the water into the same casing. But the water will be cased. The water by EPD standards has to be on top and set vertical to it. So we're complying with what needs to be done for us both to go into that casing. But what really kind of runs us over our matching funds is we're having to replace that new gravity sewer main going through there too. So that kind of puts us over our matching funds, roughly about $127,000. So we're coming to ask if we can formally request those funds that exceed our matching funds.
All right, Mr. Hartline.
The 48-inch casing that's there, what was that put in for? Was that just?
This is where the sewer main is now.
It's where it's at now?
Yes, sir.
Is the sewer line having to be replaced because you're putting other stuff, you're just doing all at one time, not
Yes.
because it's worn out or leaking?
No,
or
we're just
anything like that?
putting everything new back in so we know it's new and everything is secure. Make sure everything is correct.
We met and talked about everything. I'm good with it.
Liz, how hard is it to get to this 48-inch casing deal?
I have not seen where that's located at, so I'm gonna be honest, I can't tell you if it's easy to access or where exactly it is on where we're
Is that the
going
new
through.
bore? Is that the new bore they done here a while back?
Yes, and then
It's right north of,
290?
299,
Nine.
yeah.
All right, the sewer line, right? When was that installed? Any idea?
That would have been the 90s.
it was before.
All right, so it's not a recent thing, so if we
No,
took
sir.
it out, it would be worthwhile.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, that's what I was curious about. Thank you.
I think to answer your question, that's where the old 299 goes behind the pilot truck stop. And if you go across the interstate, the old 299 where it comes from that, you can see the sewer things in the road there,
Oh,
the
okay.
manhole covers there.
Yeah.
Well, the main thing, just about the expenditure of funds on the sewer line and replacing it. You know, what I mean, if it was a recent expenditure, I would say no, but since it's been around for quite a while, then if we don't do it now, we're just gonna have to do it.
It's original pipe.
No, I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Liz.
I mean, it's good though that it's worked as it should, so that.
Yes, I
proves
mean,
that
it's, as far as I know, it's
Yeah.
not
so
failed,
that's-
it's
that
been
proves that
secured.
it's, this will be okay.
I appreciate the due diligence. I mean, while you're in there, fix it and get it right.
That's what our contractor suggested too.
Right. Any other questions?
I'm good with it.
All right. I'll add that to consent agenda. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Totally agree.
All right. Well, the next is, hopefully this is, I've said this twice now, hopefully this is our last thing to talk about on the historic courthouse renovation, restoration project. Cole is not here, and there's some sickness hither and thither around the camp, so I truly don't want to spread germs. And I don't want their germs, and they want my germs. So, the floors are completed. Was over there last week. They look great. Everything has been restored back to the original floors. Did take a little bit longer, but they're a masterpiece. He worked at his pace, and that's fine. They're finished. Electricians are finishing up. They were waiting on some of the floors to be done to finish up their job. So they'll be putting in receptacles. I guess, Alex, the fire services is pretty much done. In fact, it is done, I'm pretty sure. So we're down to a few light fixtures, and we're down to painting. Painting's already got the first and second coat on there, so this is just the final touch of paint. They'll be painting the banisters on the outside. On a warm day, which I don't foresee anytime soon, they're going to be sealing the brick, but that'll happen probably in the spring. That won't prevent us from getting in there. So it looks good. You have any questions about that?
It looks beautiful.
No, it's better than good. It is spectacular, and we look forward to getting in there and accessing the building. So we can add that report if there's not much of a report, but anyway. I've asked Paula Duvall to come. She's a big Georgia fan, so she's going to be excusing herself the second she does this. And we won't give any formal reports because Commissioner Woods here does not want to know it. He's recording it at home, so.
Yeah.
House Bill 581 was the constitutional amendment in Georgia that passed overwhelmingly. It was a statewide homestead exemption freeze. So Paula went to, tell us about the class you went to with another 158 counties and what the summary is.
GAAO, which is the Georgia Association of Assessing Officials, held a one-day seminar regarding just 581. So we heard from a representative from the Department of Revenue, and we heard from ACCG representative. We heard from different counties of how they're looking at this. So I'm just going to go through the highlights of what 581 covers, and I'll be as brief as possible because there's a lot in here. And we're still waiting possibly on some clarification on some things. They might tighten some things up that we have some questions about. But for right now, as it stands, I'll just kind of go through step by step what 581 involves. The first thing, everybody in May receives what's called their assessment notice, which comes from our office, which tells you what your taxable value is for that particular year, and that's your time to file your appeal, for 45 days. Normally on that assessment notice, years prior, you've seen at the bottom of that assessment notice an estimated tax amount, which just gives you what your tax bill could be based on the previous year's millage rate times whatever your value is for that particular year. That is going away. You will no longer see an estimated tax on your assessment notice. You will see what's called the rollback rate, which we might have to have a little more clarification from Gron because I don't do the rollback rate. That's something the county commission and the school board does. But it will show on the bottom portion where the estimated tax was. It will show what the county's estimated rollback rate is and the school's estimated rollback rate. And if you're in the city, it will show the city's estimated rollback rate. It won't give you a tax amount. It won't give you anything like that, or just give you that number. And then when the tax bills come out, if any of those entities deviate from that rollback rate, then they have to put on the tax bill, this particular entity did not go by the rollback rate, so on and so forth. So that's something different you will see on your tax bill when you get those, if one of the entities does not go by the estimated rollback rate. Now, the wide open thing about that, there's no really rules about what the estimated rollback rate is. It's estimated. Same thing as the estimated millage rate. So anyway, that's some different things you'll be seeing on your assessment notice and on your tax bill based on House Bill 581. This is mainly for our office. When we do market studies and when we enter in the sales, there was what's called Senate Bill 346, which passed about 5 or 6 years ago, which stated that if a property sells and the sale price is a qualified fair market sale, we cannot tax above that sale price for the next year that it's taxed. So that meant we could not tax above the sale price if it was a fair market sale. That has now gone away. That is no longer the case, which just means, really for us, more in-depth market studies, really making sure we qualify these sales as fair market, because just because something sells for a number, that's not necessarily the market value. We don't look at just one sale, we look at a group of sales to determine a market value for a particular area. So one sale could affect that, but it's not necessarily the market value of a property. So that's something that is different. a lot of people that come to the meetings here, you know that every year we have a audit study. We're audited by the Department of Audits. If we disagree with that audit, we want to appeal that audit, we have previously had to come before the county commission, and the county commission had to appeal the audit report, and that's the process that we had to go through. Well, that has been changed also. Now the Board of Assessors can appeal that without having to come before the county commission. So that saves a little bit of a step. Not that we won't keep the county commissioners updated, but that way we don't have to come and we don't have to rush a meeting or something like that. If we have a certain timeline, we have to get that appeal in. The Board of Assessors can approve to appeal that on their own. As far as the chief appraiser, it did add a duty to what's in the law as far as what the chief appraiser is responsible for. One thing they added was all parcels are appraised every 3 years, which we do anyway. We assess or physically visit each parcel once every 3 years. We've divided the county up into thirds. So within every 3 years, every single parcel we've set foot on. And that's what this is talking about. As far as assessing and appraising, we do that every year for the whole county, which is what we call our market sales analysis, our sales ratio studies. That's done every year. That's where we determine whether we make changes in value or not. Let's see. Now there's another law that's in place regarding appeals. If you file an appeal, there's what's called a 299C, which is a lock in that value if a change is made, or really not necessarily even if a change is made, that value that you appealed on or that what it was changed to got locked in for a 3-year period, meaning the year you appealed and the 2 years after that, that was your taxable value. Now they're taking away everything, but only if it's reduced can the 299C be applied. And if you file an appeal to go to the BOE, we send it over to the BOE and you don't show up, or, you know, arbitrator, wherever you decide to go, you're not qualified for the 299C lock on that either. So they've changed that a little bit as far as the 299C. It was a little bit of a loophole. People would come in every 3 years, file an appeal, get locked in for 3 years. So that's why they're trying to cut that out. They're trying to cut down on that. Now the big thing is the floating homestead exemption, which we already have one in the county. We have House Bill 918-919. And what it does, it sets a frozen value for your house and up to 3 acres. And that's based on the previous year's digest for when you come in and apply. You do have to apply for it. Now this floating homestead exemption is different. We'll still have ours. All the exemptions we have in our county, this one is just in addition to, not in lieu of. So this one, what it does, as of right now, it has no acreage limit, and we're not real sure if it includes accessories, detached garage, you know, any building on the property. We're not real sure if that's included in it. So we're still trying to find out some questions and get those answered, but there's, as far as I know right now, there's no maximum acreage. So, you know, if you have 100 acres, that whole 100 acres is going to be included in this exemption. But what it does, the year you come in and apply, we take the previous year's value, and that's your set first year's floating exemption amount. So you'll be taxed on that amount. And then the next year, what happens is the Department of Revenue or the state commissioner sends out an inflation rate. Could be a CPI, whatever they choose to use for your inflation rate, that would be calculated in with what your first year's value is. And then you would just take that, what that calculation is, subtract the current year's value, and that would give you what your floating homestead exemption is. So the reason in our county, we're going to have both exemptions will apply. As far as the county, you know, the county commission has not opted out yet. So what would happen is the county would just look at which one is more beneficial for the taxpayer. Is it the floating homestead exemption from 581, or is it the homestead exemption that we currently already have? Now, for most people, if you own 3 acres or under, the floating homestead exemption we already have is probably going to be more beneficial for you, especially if you froze it 10 years ago. You know, you're not going to get much lower than that, because when this House bill passed in 2003, and people applied for this in 2003, you know, values were not anywhere fair market. You know, they were extremely low. So a lot of people have very low frozen base years, based on our current floating homestead exemption. So this one is totally different, it's calculated differently, but again, at the end of the year when tax bills come out, it will be looked at which one's more beneficial for that taxpayer. So we don't know how it's gonna work out yet, we don't know, we're still all in the planning phases of this. So it does start January 1st of '25, so this is due for this year. So we're all learning. We're all gonna figure out, how this is gonna work. Your tax bills are gonna look a little different. And like I said, your assessment notice is gonna look different. And that's the basis of it. Does anybody have any questions based on what I've presented so far?
In the House Bill 581, do they have a opt-out guidance? I mean, is there an
Yes.
opt-out into that?
Yes.
Explain a little bit of that, about that.
Well, you have till March 1st. And what you have to do, if the county or the school board or any taxing entity that this would apply towards chooses to opt out, you do have to have 3 public hearings. And you have to explain why you're opting out. And of course, that's for the public to hear whatever your option is. If you don't opt out by March 1st,
In it.
yeah, you're actually in it now. You're in it till you
Right.
opt out.
Can they opt out at any time, or is it up until March and then that's
Only
it?
until March 1st. If you don't opt out by March 1st, you're in.
So my
If you
question-
decide you want to opt out after March 1st, you can't.
And you're talking about the county, right?
The county,
Yeah,
the school
not-
board, the
not-
city,
Yeah.
yes,
not
they can opt out
a
of this
person.
new floating exemption, not any of the other exemptions we already have.
Ju-
Simply this new
Yeah, the county,
581
not an
floating exemption.
individual, not an individual, it's, the county.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
Okay, I wanted to make that clear.
That's
That's what
correct.
I was trying to figure out, is just say the school board decided they wanted to opt out of
Right.
homestead exemption, would that wipe out all of the homestead exemptions?
No,
No.
It's not
just this
the
new one,
Okay,
yeah.
Just what would apply towards the school portion.
right.
Yes,
Paula, I don't know if I should ask you or Don, but we voted on this during the last time we voted, right?
that's correct.
Yes.
Okay, so, Don, this got approved statewide.
Yes.
Yes.
Then what gives us the authority to change our mind? Does this happen with every bill?
No.
Then
Not
what,
necessarily,
then
no.
why do we have an option to say, forget what the voters decided on, we're gonna do something different? How does that work?
The legislature added it in
What's
there this time.
What?
It's 2025.
What does that mean?
The legislature gave you that option.
Yeah.
In the bill itself?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
It's
That's
strange, I feel.
Yeah,
like.
I agree, because
Yeah.
everyone voted on it, and that's why thank you for the clarification.
Yes, absolutely. That is in the bill itself.
Question.
Yes.
On page 56 on this, it says the floating homestead exemption rewards homeowners, especially those that reside in the community for a long period. It says down below, taxes do not disappear, they only shift. In this instance, the taxes are shifted from homestead properties to all other property types. Parentheses, commercial, agricultural, industrial, residential, non-homestead. So, do you have any, it looks to me like some way or another, if you buy goods and services and the businesses go on tax, are gonna get you somewhere
possible.
down there.
Yep.
It's
it is
possible.
possible.
I mean, that happens with any exemption. An exemption is basically a shift in who pays the amount of taxes.
Exactly,
Any exemption.
exactly.
So it's not that, the county's not gonna get a certain amount of money. They can get the money they need,
Right.
but a
Where it
smaller
comes
group
from.
of people are putting more money in that pot.
Do you have any, educated guesses on how much of a shift money-wise this would be one way or the other?
Well, it could be significant with your larger tract properties that have homes on them, that are homesteaded. Because like I said, there's no maximum acreage. Our homestead exemption only covers 3. So if you've got 200 acres with your house on it and it's homesteaded, then that whole 200 acres, as far as we know now, gets included in this new floating homestead exemption. So
Yeah, I mean, this
It
is
could be significant.
we're in an area where this really does affect us because we do have houses that are
Sure.
like that, closer to Atlanta. When houses are closer together, it may
Right.
not affect them as much, but
Right.
this really does.
it could very well. Mhm. Yes. Any other questions
Well,
about
that's
this?
why I wanted Paula to come tonight, because it's somewhat confusing. It's a very big piece of legislation that affects all Georgians that are property owners.
That's right.
And that's huge.
That's right. I have a couple more things if.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not on that, but on different things that I would like to discuss.
Sure.
Right now, between January 1st and April 1st is a big time frame for taxpayers. Number one, that is when if you know right now that you're not okay with your property value, you didn't file your appeal or your appeal and it didn't get changed, between January 1st and April 1st, you can file what's called a taxpayer's return of value. That gives you the opportunity to come in our office. There's a form. You put, my house, I feel it's worth this. My land, I feel it's worth this. That gives us in our office the opportunity to look at that before we send out assessment notices, so that maybe, if it's justifiable, something that we can change, we can do that before assessment notices are mailed out. So that's what a taxpayer's return of value is. And then the next thing is any homestead exemptions. If you think you qualify for any homestead exemptions, you owned that home as of January 1st of this year, you have until April 1st to come in and file your homestead exemptions. Any that you file after April 1st will not apply until 2026. So I just want to get that information out. And also, if you have a large tract of property, there are agricultural exemptions. These are also in that time frame, January 1st to April 1st. If you own anything over 10 acres is what we basically look at. And it's an agricultural piece of property. It doesn't have a bunch of houses on it. You're not going to subdivide it. You're not going to put a bunch of mobile homes on it. If you feel your property is an agricultural property, come in and talk to us. There is, like I said, an agricultural exemption for that. That can also help you tax-wise. But you do need to come in by April 1st. We did send out letters around October for any covenants that are expiring. And you also have until April the 1st to come in and renew that covenant to keep it going. So those are just a few things I wanted to get out while I'm up here. That January 1st to April 1st is a big time for filing anything in our office that would affect your particular property, until appeal time, of course. Because right now, you can't file for homestead exemptions during that 45-day appeal time. You can file for covenants, but you cannot file for homestead exemptions. So just trying to get the word out a little bit, that time is now. If you feel like you qualify for anything, come in and talk to us. We'll be glad to sit down and discuss it with you.
Okay. And we have, as you well know, a local option sales tax. We have a SPLOST, a special purpose local option sales tax. And we also have a education special purpose local option sales tax. This bill, 581, provides for what's called a FLOST, F-L-O-S-T, and that's a floating local option sales tax. If you opt out, you no longer can utilize the FLOST. And that's going forward forever until the new legislation was created. So that is another thing to think about. It's legislative process become a method to reduce millage rates imposed on all properties. So it is a mechanism, if it's passed, and there's provisions, and then we can discuss this at a later date if y'all have an interest in passing a FLOST. But if you opt out, you take that ability away. Now, then we know that the school board, local school board, is considering opting out, and that is their right.
I think they did.
Okay, well, they probably in the process, I suppose, of doing it. And I understand they have their reasons, but I don't support opting out of it. Their opting out will not affect the ability for the county to have a FLOST in the future. It's not to say we're going to do it, it's just, it's an option out there. But that would lower property taxes. And I think it would, anytime you can say that out loud, you ought to at least consider the option.
That's an option to offset revenue lost for the floating homestead exemption.
That's correct.
You use it on
And
this FLOST.
to opt out, do we have to vote on it?
We would have to vote on it and pass that before March 1st.
Okay,
So that really only leaves one more meeting. I don't support opting out
I don't either.
because one of the people voted on it. It's overwhelmingly passed. I mean,
Across the state.
and you're basically saying, well, we don't really care what you think, but this is the reason we're doing it. But anyway, that's how I feel. Anybody else got
So
any?
if you support of opting out, that is in support of not adding a 1 cent sales tax to our sales tax.
Say that one more time.
If we opt out of it, what does that
If we opt out, we just never have the ability to pass a floss.
Which is,
It
would be
removes that option.
what would that be? 1
It's
cent?
up to 1 cent. I think it's up to 1 cent.
I don't support it.
Yeah.
I support opting out of it.
It doesn't automatically add that floss, though. It has to go
No,
through a process to vote.
It gives us a
Yeah,
chance.
there is a
Right.
process.
Yeah.
I don't support it, so.
But I support anything that reduces property tax. So, anyway. Any other comments?
I support it because it's what the people voted for. I mean, I didn't personally vote for it, but, I feel like we would be overriding what the people voted, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay.
As a commissioner, I read that question the day of the election. That's not what the question asked. It didn't tell any of this other stuff in that. It
Oh,
gave
no.
you some highlights.
Oh, no, it
no.
was
Never
terrible.
does.
And it didn't say that the schools could opt out of your homestead exemptions and all that either, so that's, I think the citizens was misled when they read that highlight.
Oh, I do
Just
too.
like they do on a lot of bills, so that's why I'm not for it.
Well, I think the key word was exemption.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
It made it pretty that
my
it's
18-year-old son,
statewide
he didn't know what
exemption.
he was
Exactly.
voting for.
But then, I
Right.
mean, I read it 4 times, and when it said opt out, my mind went straight to the school system, because they want their money on the property tax, and that gives them the ability to opt out.
Right.
Or us as well, we could do the same thing, so,
It's a hard one.
Any other discussion?
What do you feel?
Right offhand, I would say I would opt out.
Yeah.
I'll have to study this a little more, but that's, right now, as of this second, that's the way I
Yeah, I
feel.
mean, I agree with Philip. I mean, I have children that were able to vote and, they had no idea what they were reading,
And your ACG representatives should be able to answer questions for you.
Right.
Regarding the
And there
House Bill
is-
But it's
581.
it's hard to go
Guidance out
against
there.
what the
Right.
people voted for, and it's passed tremendously, so it's hard to go against it,
Okay. All right, well, that was just information. Thank you, Paula. Moving on to number 8, home rule. This is home rule change to amend local acts regarding appointment of a successor to fill vacancies of term for a member's term, I should say. Robin, would you like to talk to us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, our local legislation requires us to fulfill vacancies within 15 days of them becoming vacant. And there was some feeling, in October, November, following, Lamar's death, that period of time was too short. And so the principal way, and the idea was maybe we could extend that to 45 days rather than 15 days. That's in our local legislation that was passed by the legislature that created this, form of government that we have. So we can't do that easily, but we can do it under the home rule provisions under the Georgia Constitution. But there's an exception to the home rule provision that says that you can't change the process in your local legislation to appoint successors or to fulfill vacancies. So the issue in my mind is whether changing the period by which this commission would fulfill the vacancy, if that's changing the procedure. So what we are doing is we're requesting that the AG issue an opinion regarding whether this is an issue that we can handle ourselves under the home rule provision. AG being the state attorney general opinion. And they can issue, if they decide to take it up, they can issue an official or unofficial opinion on that issue, and we just haven't received that yet.
So the procedure's not changing, it's just the time frame.
That's correct.
That's
correct.
Okay. Any questions?
Okay, I was processing.
All right. Hearing none, we'll move to number 9, proposed 2025-26 agreement with fire service protection. The goal of having this on the agenda is not to consider it for adoption tonight, but just to give you the ability to read through this. There's an agreement for protection, or fire protection and rescue, and also an agreement for lease of real and/or personal property for the provision of fire protection and rescue services. This is for our volunteer fire departments throughout the county. It is coming up. We've got, it says March, usually typically that's the meeting in March. I mean, we could extend that. We could vote on it even in February if you so chose. I would recommend that each commissioner get with their fire departments, their chiefs, and discuss it, read through it, and see if there's any changes that the fire chiefs will like to recommend to you. I know it came up at the last meeting at the fire chiefs. Rodney, would you like to say anything, or just? Right. Okay, so he said you get with your fire chiefs in your district, and I would suggest that as well. The fire chiefs meetings typically what, the first Monday of each month? Every other month, okay. So, anyway, and it's rotating around the communities, so, be aware of that. Just, take a look at this. If you've got any questions, feel free to come by and we'll discuss it, or just talk to your fire chief so that we can come to an agreement. And again, if it takes longer than March, then we'll extend it into March. We're not gonna stop paying you folks, so, but we do need to have this in place to legally continue this, especially into FY '26 budget.
All right, wait a minute. So I go down there and hook up with Rising Farm, right? And he talks about it. And, I told people when they elected me, I was gonna speak my voice on things, and here it goes. Okay, so then all the fire chiefs get together, and it just becomes a big phallic symbol measuring contest where not a damn thing gets accomplished. Okay, so who's gonna force, if we do this seriously, if we do this, then who's gonna force and have oversight of that meeting where something can actually come out of it that's worthwhile?
Well, I was just about to suggest
Because-
that maybe we could talk to our chiefs, and maybe before an end result, we could have a special called meeting
Yep.
with everybody.
Good.
Well, the chiefs and us.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of that, but I've heard from numerous, right, well-intended, right, fire leaders, right, okay, about the meetings and this and that and the other, and what doesn't happen and what should happen, et cetera. And so if we're starting off with a new year and a new team, let's work so we can support the collective fire departments that we have.
Okay?
My recommendation would be to talk to our people, like Melissa said, after our February meeting, between February and March, have a special call meeting, everybody sit down and hash it out together. It's a whole lot easier to talk to everybody at one time than it is one person at a time, and then my story's different than that story.
Right.
It's easier to have it on film and everybody get to see it.
I think,
Okay.
fully concur with that.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, so try to reach out to everyone, talk to them, and then we'll look for a special call meeting sometime in February to March and pass that. Because if it passes a special call meeting, it would still be effective April 1st, so that works out fine.
Good deal.
Any other discussion? Okay. Next on the agenda is Resolution R-01-25. That's a tax anticipation note, a line of credit. And so every January, we do approve this, just in case there's a shortfall. Typically, after the tax commissioner collects funds, we always run dry about June to July. Sometimes we made it to August. There's been years we don't use it. 3 years ago, we did not use it. 4 years ago, we did not use it. But we've used a TAN for the last 2 years. Interest rates being low, it's not been that big of a deal. And we always try to go to a local bank and we bid that out to whoever's the lowest interest rate. So that's what this is about. And then we have to pay that off after the taxes come in at the end of the year. Typically by November, early December, we'll usually pay that off. So, any discussion?
I'm comfortable with that, yeah.
Did we go up on the amount, or was that what we were last year?
That's where we were last year.
I couldn't remember, was that or $1 million?
Yep. Any other discussion? All right. Here now, we'll add that to the consent agenda. Resolution R-02-05 is a memorandum of understanding that the Family Crisis Center of Walker, Dade, Catoosa, and Chattooga has requested each year. It just lays out, basically some guidelines as to how what they do for us for the funds. And this usually is a result of victim assistance funds that are shared to them. Any discussion on that passage of that? No. That's for. Okay, hearing none, we'll add that to the consent agenda. Item 12 is a Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. They ask that each year, or at least periodically, we pass and appoint a county legislative coordinator. Most CEOs or county executives or managers are that person, but I'm willing, if y'all are interested, any of you are interested, I'd be more than happy for you to serve.
Yeah, I don't mind to do that, because that's just the meeting that.
It's typically the general meeting held for ACCG in May, and then also at the annual conference, and then sometimes the legislative conference in October.
I don't mind, but it's up to you guys.
Okay, Melissa volunteered.
I support you doing it.
All right. So we'll add Melissa's name to that.
Thank you.
All right, so you'll be appointed as the legislative, and I believe the way legislative coordinator, I'm sorry, if I can speak, and this is really appointed until removed, okay? So,
Right.
I mean, we can do it annually, but there's really no need to,
Right.
unless y'all want to.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm always interested in that. So.
okay, thank you. We'll add that to consent agenda. Number 13 is resolution R-04-25. Jad is not here. He told me he'd be here, but we pass this every year. Typically, this comes up in December, but he got it to us here in January, and this is the Indigent Defense Services Agreement with the Public Defender's Office. And you can read through that if you'd like to. It's the budget, the document stayed exactly the same. In fact, it stayed the same for the last 3 years. And I believe Dade County's portion, I haven't even looked at this, let's see, Dade County's portion, yeah, it's 93,707, and that's, I think, pretty close to what it is currently. So with no change. One thing to note about not only the public defender, but also the district attorney's budgets, they're not utilizing all the funds because they can't find attorneys. They can't hire attorneys because there's no attorneys to be hired. They want to work in Atlanta. In Atlanta, around those counties, they're allowing them to work from home, whereas we don't typically work from home in Dade County or the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. So it's been very difficult. If you have a family member who's an attorney, if you get in touch with us, we can get them a job as an assistant district attorney or probably a public defender. But
That's why it's called Lookout Mountain Contracts, because of the judicial circuit.
yes,
Okay, got it.
right. So this is, once approved, this is for the entire circuit. It's a one contract. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll add that to consent agenda for approval. And then the financial authorization is number 14. And this is adding our new folks to the checking accounts at both Bank of Dade and as well as Citizens Bank and Trust. And also authorizing Rebecca to have access to these information, not as a signer, but just as information to be able to do stop payments, et cetera, whatever. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll add that to consent agenda. All right, any other discussion?
I have one, just to throw out here.
Okay.
What do you, in the next month, how do y'all feel about having a work session meeting on the first Thursday of the month and have a regular work session the third Thursday of the month? So when people come in to print us into something, we have 2 weeks in between time.
What were those proposed dates again?
The first Thursday of the month and the third Thursday. First Thursday do the work session, third Thursday do the work session. Or the regular session to approve or not approve. I'm just throwing that out there. Or if we do our work session this month, we vote on it next month. So your work session's always a month behind.
Well, there's a lot of contracts and agreements that it's tough to get, just like Jad's, we used to get it in December, but he's got 4 different fiscal calendars he has to deal with because of the circuit, the way it falls. So we're the earliest one. And, it just depends on certain items. I mean, we can always pull it off and vote on it, I
I
guess.
don't have a problem with that, but I also feel like, with new jobs being filled in the office, that hopefully we could start, and I don't mean to sound ugly about it, but maybe the board could be more informed.
Okay.
Maybe just throwing it out there, like a email once a week
Sure.
of topics or things that are coming into the office. And I think that that's kind of what everybody has struggled with in the past is, you get something thrown at you and then you gotta turn around and vote on it. And I'm sure that both of them would probably agree with that. So I would like to see a little bit more of a once a week inform.
Sure.
Yeah, I think, if I'm understanding Melissa correctly, better utilization of read-ahead packets, right? I don't necessarily want, Philip, another meeting in the month myself. I go to enough now.
Right.
But if and we'll try it out. If we so when we show up for a meeting, we're not seeing anything for the first time, right?
Right, yeah.
If we've got time to interpret it, analyze it, et cetera, then I suggest we go down that road.
Yeah, or even talk about, sometimes, I know by the assemblies, sometimes it doesn't hit, within the week, but maybe just for us, it would be like an email just sent out or
Right.
something. That could be,
Yeah.
somewhat informant, somewhat just topics, not necessarily something that we need to talk about, but just information.
Okay.
Yeah. I think with the hiring of a new county clerk, that will be really helpful. There's gonna be a learning curve with
Yes,
a county clerk because there's just a whole lot to
a
interpret.
lot.
Especially anyone coming from a private world to the governmental world, it's just different.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, right, Philip, you know that for sure, right? It's totally different. It's totally upside down sometimes, especially finances. It's just completely backwards if you think about it. And what you can and can't do. Part of that is just like the fire services protection tonight, or in the home rule. There are certain things that, we can put out there to interpret, to study. There are certain contracts that we literally don't get.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes, like, a lot of them are grant with date sensitivity, and we struggle to get them. Penny is back in the back. She can tell you with 5311, Section 5311 grants for public transportation, they'll tell you, we need it, and then they send it, and we don't get it, and we get it literally, we have like 48 hours, we're supposed to do all the information.
Through the state
And
department.
it's all electronic,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, I
so
get
we
that,
really,
but it
it's,
could be even just that, hey, we
We're
haven't
working
got
on this now.
or we're
Yeah,
working
yeah,
on
yeah.
it, or we're,
but,
just a statement of some sort.
no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I'd like to attempt to get through the county clerk process, maybe let them get their feet wet.
Yes, for sure.
Give them 6 months or so, and,
Let 'em swim
I'm
around.
kinda like Bob, I don't mind another meeting, but I really prefer not to have another meeting if we can get by. If we had, a lot of counties deal with zoning, and we were at a mock commission meeting in December, and, 80% of that agenda was zoning. Now, we're thankful not to have that, and, but it gets into the nitty gritties, and it just goes on and on and on. You talk about long commission meetings. Thankfully, we don't have that, so, most of ours is condensed, typically 14 items is a long agenda. We've had as many, I guess it's 21 agenda items. We've had some agendas, six items. So sometimes it's short and sweet. It just depends on the month and what's happening. I'd be open to it, but I'd say let's try to get a new.
Or maybe a timeline to have something presented to us before, you know, a 2-week timeline. We need it 2 weeks prior to that meeting.
I got you.
Yeah, I don't know how, I guess to look at, I know that we can, by law, we can email as a group,
Yeah.
but I don't know if there's something about information. I would think that it could be any information, but I don't know by law. I mean,
No, you could send one out to individual commissioners,
Right.
before you run into trouble if it's,
Group.
yeah.
if it's what?
A group.
Yeah, so if, like, say, 3 or more of you start
Talking.
Collectively.
going back and forth, right?
Right.
That's right,
Well, yeah,
If I wrote Philip on something and he wrote me back,
that's fine,
right, and I wrote Bill, et cetera, that's all legal.
that's fine.
I thought you
Okay.
could as a group,
You
though.
can, I could, like, for instance, could send out these things to everyone. It's just when someone replies back and starts granting their opinions through it
Okay,
and
okay.
try.
Well, that's what
You
we
don't
would
wanna
have to make it,
appear
is
to
that
vote
it's
on
a,
anything and
that it's just a
manipulate it.
statement. It's not a place
Right.
to discuss.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything further? All right, we will recess this meeting and set up for the regular meeting. Thank you.
The one thing
we'll call the meeting to order at this time, and I'm gonna ask, the Brother Reese Fawcett from New Salem Methodist Church to come up. He's gonna lead us in our invocation, and then if you also will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we appreciate that.
Almighty God, as we bow our heads before you tonight, we thank you for another year. We thank you, God, for the opportunity to serve with each other and for each other. Lord, as this community gathers this night, these commissioners and these citizens, we pray that you would show us ways forward, ways that would please you, that would care for our neighbor, for each other. Lord, we look for your wisdom to be with us. We ask all this in the matchless and wonderful name of our Christ and Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reese. We appreciate that. All right, this is the regular scheduled meeting of the Dade County Board of Commissioners, which takes place at the same time on the first Thursday of every month. Proper notice of this meeting was given in the legal organ of Dade County and has been posted in the hallway of the administrative building. This time, I'll call the roll and have it recorded by the clerk. Dr. Pullen?
Present.
Mr. Hartline?
Here.
Mr. Woods?
Here.
Mrs. Bradford?
Here.
And the chair is present. We have a quorum and therefore a legal meeting. This time, we will have citizens' participation. If you come to the microphone, state your name and area of county you live in.
Rebecca Cartwright. I live in the Davis community. And please, if anybody comes up behind me, I'm not contagious. I just am immunocompromised. So I just wanted to speak a little bit more on the House Bill 581. Thank you for covering a lot of that. I'm not sure if you knew this or anybody else, but if there is not an opt-out for that will remain in effect for 50 years. So a lot of people, obviously didn't know what they were voting on when that was put up before everybody during election time. It just said, statewide exemption. Obviously, the school board is having their 3 meetings this month because they're wanting to opt out. And from what you said, if they opt out, it's just, they would be able to do the taxation off of that, correct? They would be able to do the taxation off of that if they opt out?
If they opt out, they cannot use the new local homestead, but they can continue with the one we already have.
Right, so, okay, so they can use the millage rate and off that and everything. Okay. I just wanted a verification off that. But I just wanted to let everybody know that the new homestead, if it's not voted on by, like if you guys decide not to vote on it and opt out on it by March the 1st, it will stay in effect for 50 years.
50 years.
Yes. That was done with research by myself and from the gentleman from the Trenton Daily News. So just wanted to let everybody be aware of that. Also, had some questions regarding, I know this is more of a city issue, but the acreage, the 48 or 78 acres that's supposed to be for the micro homes, since they're annexing that, is that acreage outside of city limits right now?
That is in the unincorporated area, correct?
So it is, okay. All right. And I'm assuming, like I said, D.R. Horton is involved in this, correct?
To my knowledge, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Do you guys know of his track record? He's got a pretty bad track record when it comes to lawsuits with buildings and things like that.
I don't even know who.
He's a major builder. So, I mean, I know that a lot of major builders are gonna have quite a bit of lawsuits. There was just one of them that I particularly found kind of frightening for the fact that apparently he lost his builder's permit in Louisiana and just left the build. And so, like, these people were sitting there like, what are we gonna do with our HOA? What do we do with this? and then like their newly put in appliances weren't working, their septic systems, they had to actually rework their septic systems and things like that. This is things that I think, you know, the county should know going into that. And then obviously having 130 homes come in all at one time, that's a lot of traffic. Number one, we're already like awful with traffic. And then also, you know, getting that many people come in too, would it make us too big, too soon, all at one time? Would we lose some of our funding for our schools because of that? These are just questions I'm kind of wondering.
I know the more students in school, the more money they get.
Right, yeah.
But I
Well,
don't
yeah, I
know.
do understand that.
I really
If you
don't,
get more
I'm not-
students, you
I
get more
really don't know
funding.
what-
But something along the lines of something in Catoosa County where that supposedly happened, so that's why I was wondering.
I'm really not sure what you're talking about, to be honest.
I'll do a little bit more research and reach out to you. Before I leave tonight, if you don't mind, if I could get all your contact information, I would
Okay.
appreciate that, so I would have that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what you're,
Yeah,
talking
I wasn't
about.
either until, you know, I started researching it a little bit more into it.
Here's my card.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carrie. Also, I know that, you know, sometimes when some of us get up here, sometimes we can get under each other's skin. And I know that sometimes, you know, you get certain people get up here and they may say things and they, you know, upset you. And I know that you guys lost Lamar, and I'm very, very sorry for that. I am tremendously sorry. From someone who's lost their own parent to cancer, and who's actually going through it herself right now, it stinks. So I want to tell you guys I'm very, very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But I also want to say, you know, I know that there's some tension between Mr. Huffman when he gets up here with some people sometimes. And I know that, you know, I can see that he gets under some people's skin when he gets up here sometimes too. But I've also heard people making snide comments about him from while I was sitting here today. He's not even here. It's not appropriate.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Your 5 minutes is
Thank you.
expired. Any other comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move ahead.
We got one more.
Oh, okay, come on up.
Well, I wouldn't come up, could I give her about 5 minutes?
No, you may not. I'm sorry, you may not. No.
It's okay, thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we will have the point of privilege, so I ask Dr. Pullen if you've got anything to report?
Well, I do.
Okay.
I may not have as much as what was listed on the thing, but I've had the privilege for the past several years to work with some of the unsung heroes of Dade County and talk about the last 12 months of emergency response. This is the calendar year of 2024, and it has to do with the Dade County Emergency Services, EMS, and Memorial EMS, and total calls of the year were 2,653 calls. And then we have the fire department monthly call, and that's South Dade, Dade County Station 1 and 4, New Salem, West Brown, New Home, Davis, Dade Emergency Services, the E911, EMA, Dade County Mountain Rescue, Dade County Public Works, Georgia Forestry Commission, and Trenton Public Works. And that was 3,849 calls. And then you've got the police monthly calls, Dade County Coroner, Georgia Department of Public Safety, the Sheriff's Office, Trenton Police Department, Lookout Mountain Drug Task Force Circuit, Georgia State Patrol, and Georgia State Probation for a total of all of these down through there, total of 40,000 110 calls for little old Dade County. That's a lot of calls, folks, but now some of them, there's multiple units respond. You may have the fire department, the ambulance, the state patrol, but, that is a lot of calls, I think, for a small county like this. But in the work session, we don't have any backup from Tennessee and Alabama, and all our ambulance stuff has to come from Walker County across the mountain. So just to give you a little report on what's happening with your emergency services of police, fire, ambulance, etc. Can I field any questions?
That's good.
All right. Mr. Hartline.
As far as the sports complex goes, they've been up here actually helping with before now, helping put up the Christmas lights. I'm assuming they'll be up here helping take them down and clean up that. On electrical inspections, what I'd like to discuss is of 2024, we had 272 electrical inspections for the county. 93 of them was new construction, 49 of them was temporary new constructions, and 37 was mobile homes. But the 272 included new construction, temporary alterations, garages, mobile home shops, RV parks. We only had 3 months that was under 20 inspections a month. We had 12 inspections 1 month, 13 and 18. Everything else was above that. So we are building in the county. My other thing that I want to discuss is the comment about the subdivision that could or could not come. Here's the seat that we sit in and the issues that we face. You talk to one person, I want to do what I want to on my property, this is my land. And then in the same sentence, that person or somebody else will say, hey, I don't want this person doing what they can on their land. So we're up here trying to find a happy balance. That there is very complicated. You know, you're going to want us to tell them to stop this, but I had someone call me wanting us to do a noise ordinance for barking dogs. I would like somebody to explain to me how I'm supposed to do that in a community. I mean, we're gonna give them a time frame to bark on. Like, them are the issues that we deal with on a daily basis.
Well, that is
So,
a
I mean,
thing.
So we're trying to find a happy medium for everybody to try to handle issues with everybody and every citizen of the county, not take care of one or the other, do it for all. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Woods?
Well, the senior center, I've been coming to these meetings for quite a while, right? And honestly, I drive by that senior, it's in my neighborhood. I drive by that senior center, I don't know how many times a week, and I am a senior person up here, right? And I know Paulo Stallings from my previous service on the school board, and so I'd be honored to serve in the capacity of Mr. Chairman, right? As the senior center point of contact for the county commission.
Sounds great.
I don't have anything else to report, but I'll get my head into it, and I will, if you concur with that.
Mrs. Bradford?
Okay. Well, I'm always kind of struggling to report about the transfer station because things kind of just run there and it's, recycling's always a problem, but I don't think that's ever going to change. So I have decided this new year that I was going to visit some places and get information that way. So this last few days I visited the water company and it was very interesting to see how the water's processed and talk to them and get to know them better. I feel like the more communication with those types of businesses and people that the commission has gives more visibility to the public. So as much as I can, I will be reporting on some issues or different events that's happening over there, and any questions that I could try to answer, I will try to do that for you too.
Thank you. just to go over a few things, Brandon Stevens.
I have
is-
one more thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I do want to say that there, and you could probably correct me too, because you were with me, that, you know, Taylor Green came through and visited, and I know everybody's, you know, not Taylor Green fans, or you are or not, but she came through, visited the Water Authority, and figured out that they needed this machine to help clean the water to get it up, and got a grant. And it's being matched, and it's pretty amazing. Because one single person was taking the leaves out of the water, if you could believe that. So now it will be this official machine that they're going to install into the creek, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, the main thing that we learned the other day when Melissa and I were down there is that they have now a checklist that they have to go down, right? To get those matching funds, right? And to make it happen. So I guess that'll be just something that the Water Authority, right? You know, they've got their head in the game, but we just gotta make sure that, you know, that's occurring, right? I saw the need for it, there's no doubt about it. It could be a real gaggle, and, you know, that would be like hell here on earth if you were the poor guy that had to go down there and clean all that out, because it would just be nasty as can be. But, so I fully concur with
Yeah, and I think it'll be good having that outlet, and hopefully our water board members will communicate with us more about that.
be good.
Is my hope and plan.
All right, thank y'all. Brandon Stevens has flu. I don't know if you've heard or not, but poor guy's sick, and so he did send a report. He texted it to me. Says, we have sanded down the rails around the bleachers and are in the process of repainting them. Middle school baseball will start practicing the middle of February for the start of their season, and rec league have sign-ups going on, also online, so be aware of all that. Just so you know, we did receive a court order from Judge Graham issued on 12/31. I'm sorry, it was issued on December 23rd, 2024. And what that court order basically said was she recommended, or so ordered the court reporters of the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit, of which Dade County, of course, is a member, to get an increase in their salary. The problem was, I guess you could say a problem, I mean, their salary was at $26,815, and it went to $65,000. So that's quite a jump. Now, putting that in perspective, though, it's based off population. Dade County's per diem or rate there is only at 9.233%. Walker and Catoosa are both in the 38% range, so that's quite a jump for them. Ours that would equal about $6,000 a year, which is not excessive by any means. But for those other two counties, that was quite a jump. Now, why did they go up? Well, it's to keep court reporters and to find court reporters. It's just like attorneys. They're hard to find these days, and it's hard to hold court without court reporters. So that is the primary reason, and it's not to say they don't deserve it. Give you perspective, when the legislation was entered in April 12, 1982, a court reporter made $16,500. March 27, 1995, the governor signed the bill causing them to get a raise to $22,500. In 2017, it went to $26,815. But so it puts it now in the hands of the chief judge, and so she did raise that to $65,000. She retired December 31st, and so Judge House issued a new court order this morning, amending her court order, and still will be $65,000, but it will not be effective until July 1st. So that does help. At least we're able to budget for it, because of course those funds were not budgeted for prior, and that would have been a huge deal if you're in Catoosa or Walker County, because that's whatever the amount is multiplied by 4, because there's 4 judges, therefore 4 court reporters. So just so you're aware of that. Subdivision, this is more primarily for the commissioners to absorb there. Regarding the subdivision expansion, that is a city matter. And you mentioned septic tank. The purpose, you could not put that many houses that close together. So I think the purpose of it being in the city is for sewer. So there is no septic tanks. There is a need for housing in Dade County. I mean, I know several people that would love to buy a house. There's just no what they consider affordable housing. I guess my position on it is if the city does have zoning, the city does have extensive ordinances in place for code enforcement, and therefore, if the city code enforcement makes them do the right thing, then no matter who the builder is, they should probably jump through the right hoops. Now, granted, that's a tough one. You got to deal with contractors, but you also have the ability for local contractors to have more business. I mean, I know there's other homes going in that haven't sold yet. I don't market and I don't value homes, so I mean, I'm just stating the fact that there are several people in Dade County I know that currently live here that would love to buy a home in Dade County. There's others that would like to come into the county. I don't know that they'll all go up. I don't know how fast they'll go up, but again, I would recommend going to the city and exploring that, because good questions. I appreciate the questions you brought tonight. Working with Thrive Community out on Scenic Highway 189, and I know Commissioner Bradford has assisted in this too, but they're looking at putting a crosswalk in from the Thrive Senior Living Home there across 189. One way you come in, it's 35. The other way is 45, I think. It's right before you get to Covenant or right after you've left Covenant. Coming from Covenant College, it's 35, I think. So the sheriff has recommended officially to reduce the speed to 35 both ways right there in order for them to put a crosswalk in, because you can't legally have a crosswalk across the Georgia Department of Transportation's regulated highway with any rate of speed higher than 35 miles per hour. So we are working with them, trying to see that can get accomplished. Yes, we are going to see some reorganization in county government. I'm not making massive changes. I mean, I think what we've been doing for a long time works, and I don't believe in coming in and turning the basket over and trying to go back and find the apples under whatever. So we're going to continue on. There will be many more similarities than changes, but we'll have a few changes here and there. One of the things I would like to see is, we've talked about this a few years ago. Some of you may not even been on the board at that time, but this was a hiring of a grant writer. Grant writers are important because you can be grant poor. There's a lot of grants to apply for, but sometimes if you don't need the grant, there's no need to apply for the grant. But I do support getting a person in place to help us. I don't think it's a full-time job. I think it's probably a part-time job, but initially. But a good grant writer will pay for themselves too. That's one way to think about that. So we'll be looking at that. Emergency medical services contract was discussed a little bit tonight. That did automatically renew, November 1st? Yeah, something like that. So that's probably a one-year contract, but I agree, we do need to start, even now, in the spring at the latest, reviewing that contract for next year. And I believe CHI wants to review the contract as well. I mean, plenty to discuss there. We won't get into all that tonight, but I would say that well before November, we need to accomplish that. The Department of Driver Safety has issued their upcoming schedule. This is online for anybody that would like to go onto our website. And then they were here, they'll be here January 6th. That's next Monday. And then actually this month they'll be here 3 times, it says, January 6th, 13th, and 27th. They're typically here every other Monday. Occasionally if there's a holiday, they will skip that, sometimes be on Tuesdays, sometimes just be on the next week. it kind of throws it off. So, but anyway, be aware that the 25 schedule is available online. It's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. when they're here. And sometimes if you go to the dds.georgia.gov website, it's not always, just call. If you want to call our office, we'll let you know if they're here or not. We don't mind doing that. They are located in the building adjacent here across the way in the Justice Building. You go in, make a left, and they're right there on the hall. But it's quite a convenience to have in Dade County. We're one of few counties in the state that have that. In fact, we've had people drive from almost Atlanta to come up here and use that service. Just so you know, I'm an amateur meteorologist. You know that, Bob Woods, anyway.
No.
It's going to get cold, y'all, and I want to tell you to start taking care of your pets and your pops and people. I think there's another P, I can't think of it right now, but plants, that's right. Most of us put our plants up for the year, so I think you're good. It's going to get really cold in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and so be very cautious about that. Go ahead and wrap your pops and run that water. You know, I don't want you to waste water, but we don't want you to have frozen pops either. So I think that's about it. You know, the train, we fight trains in Dade County. They were here doing the maintenance on the crossings. They got through most of Dade County, and then they pulled out on us and went somewhere down South Mississippi. They will be back to finish. They're pretty much down to Rising Fawn, and then they'll head on south towards DeKalb and County. So if they didn't get your crossing yet, they will be back to get that. But if you have any problems, give us a call. We'll try to help you out all we can. And if you know the Georgia score tonight, don't tell Bob because he wants to go home and watch it, but I'll say this, go Dogs tonight. We'll move this meeting along.
Can I come back to one thing?
Sure.
You was talking about the development and it being a city issue. For us, I think we need to think about how much water we have left. We have one source. I know before Mr. Anderson passed away, I had a conversation with him. He said we were drawing roughly 2 million gallons a day. Our permit was for 3.5 or 3.8 million and sewer. So yes, if they're gonna annex it into the city, it's a city ordeal. But if it's gonna affect us as a county, when we decide to go back to ask for water, or we want to put in another water meter, and they tell us we can't because we've let outside people come in and build, we need to think of that and where we at on our water and our dilution ratio for the sewer plant.
All right. We happen to have the mayor of Trenton here, so, Mr. Mayor, would you like to? Yes, sir.
Yeah, this was a large company based out of Texas that come and met with us, and I contacted county executive and the future county executive of this. The water company and the sewer company, those thoughts as well, Commissioner Hartline, can we handle it? In projects we work with you with developers, but that's the first thing we gotta know. What can we do? Can we handle it? Do we have enough water? And do we have enough fire protection? That's the next thing. That's my other hat. Can we protect it if it catches on fire? Roads are an issue as well, what we're gonna do, but we also have got people looking for housing. We work with another developer that's building another micro subdivision, and they're not micro homes, they're full residential R1 homes, foundations, footings, things like that. So when they do come, we start doing our due diligence. We get our engineers involved, LAD Engineering, which is our engineer and the Dade County Water and Sewer Authority's engineer. We met with Elizabeth, and the engineers are involved. And that's a big deal. We know that 5,000 gallons a month is our average design per home. So 130 times 5,000 is how much more water we need and how much water is coming into our sewer. And we got to know that. And we do have some choke points. And those choke points will be the impact fee or the impact study that we will request that they would have to install and do. But this is so very new that we hadn't made any decisions on it. We preliminary talked about it last month, and we're talking about it again at the next meeting, and I involved the county executive, the prior and the current, to be involved, because one of the things is they want annexation for the zoning because lenders will not lend without a certificate of occupancy on some of these homes. So it's very new, nothing's been decided. I just announced that we were working with it, and yes, Ms. D.R. Horton is not the Dwayne Horton we're thinking about in Chattanooga. This is a company based in Texas, and they're building 2 large things right now in Walker County. We have heard the horror stories too, but it goes back to what County Executive Townsend said. It's the inspections. And I have made statements, and not to anybody, but somebody hires a general contractor charges subs. Sometimes people cut corners, and it's our job as inspections inside the city to make sure that's safe. The depth of the footer, the right size rebar, how wide it is, the right size openings of the windows and stuff for means of egress, and then you have to have an aggressive inspections. And sometimes people slip and they may use the wrong wire for wiring, the incorrect plumbing. That's why our inspectors stay trained and educated, and we go from ground till it's sealed, footers, framing, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. Georgia has a code, and we have the current standard building codes of Georgia that we enforce. They come to us. If we don't let them, they said they'll go somewhere else. That's about as simple as that. So here's an opportunity that we're looking at, and the reason they talked about is they wanted annex, so we have to get y'all involved. But we have not made a decision, yay, nay, or nothing. I just talked about it last month. Media got it, and it's went where it's at. And if we do something, well, I'll be right back here talking to y'all individually. But we haven't even had 2 words on it. But preliminary, we've met with them twice. An engineer is involved, and yes, that's our first concern.
I'm not saying I'm for or against it either way.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying that we as commissioners up here, we don't need to say, oh, y'all are gonna exit in, it's the city, and not take a look at water.
Oh, we are.
And that's all I'm saying.
Well, that's, as you know, we have to because we're limited.
Right.
And I've talked when I used to come up every month, and it just got repetitive, and I'm sorry I haven't, but we put over 1.2 million in the sewer with our ARPA funding for infrastructure issues. LAD has got 3 more phases of upgrades we need that is ready, and we're going after GFA funding, which is the federal infrastructure grants, that you have to go through GFA to get that. But we're looking several $1 million that the city's fixing to do, but we had to financially get into a point to show where the sewer can take care of it.
Right.
We've been behind the 8 ball for a while, but yes, we haven't made any decisions. It's just discussion. I just asked the commission, can we continue discussion? Would you like to look at it? And they said yes. We had 1 more meeting with the executives, and we're going to discuss it again at the next city meeting, but nothing has been said yea or nay. I want to make sure we can handle it. That's exactly right. That's exactly the way we do every project, because the project that we've talked about in Piney that's being built, that was a design that our engineer said, yes, we can handle, but we're asking them to design it for the whole Piney area. The thing, we want to be able to say, hey, if you do this, can we pay the difference for a bigger line and a bigger pump station, and can we work with that? Same thing with this here. You know, I worry about Sales Lane and Cedar Lane. That's a lot of traffic on that road, and other things that we talked about going out Sales Lane backwards to 136. It's narrow. It can't handle that traffic. So there's a lot of things for us, city and county, to decide, but that's a choice we will all make. It's just discussions for housing. And I have contacted Walker and talked about the 2, and one of them Fayette, the city's Fayette's doing, and one in Walker County. And they haven't had many issues. Now, I have read the stories too, so we'll do our due diligence.
GFA is that Georgia Federation of, what is
GFA is a Georgia,
Environmental Finance Authority.
yeah.
Georgia Environmental
Finance Authority. That's where we as counties or municipalities, municipalities, water authorities, sewer authorities can borrow money. And there's a lot of your infrastructure funding that the federal government gives out, or grants, or through that. And you may be on the hook for a while, for a few years of making payments on it, then a lot of it's forgiven through the grant. So I've attended 2 meetings last year to get prepared for what's coming up that we're fixing to follow, but we got a 1966 is when some of the major clay infrastructure was put in the city. And we have spent the last 2 years cameraing major sewer lines. And when this project come up that D.R. Horton come to us with, we were already fixing to camera and clean the line from the 136 pump station all the way up to the high school to the subdivision back there, because we're having some heavy influx when it rains, and we're trying to find it. So, and that is a newer line that was done, when was the school done? In the mid-90s, late 90s? So we don't know what it is. So our systems, our cleaners and cameras are not big enough, so we have to contract it out. But we've done, I would say we've done maybe 3/8 or almost a half of our major 8-inch clay infrastructure, and it's got some bad problems. So that's what we're gonna try to go after. And LAD is designing that for us.
It's good clarification, because a couple of weeks ago, Wednesday night, I walked into church. I'm not saying I was assaulted, but there was a lot of people wanted to talk to me,
Yeah.
so to speak, because they were worried, you know, the point, the bumper sticker that I took away from after I verified it with you,
Yes, sir. Yeah, you did call.
right, was that it's micro lots, not micro homes.
That's right. We do not allow tiny homes within
Yep.
the city. A tiny home to us is the minimum is 1,000 square foot home. It's gotta have brick mortar on a foundation. You can't go by the things you see, drag them up and make them. They're not structurally safe. They're not fire safety for egress if something happens. They just don't meet structural loads that we need. And
So what would be a micro?
So,
lot?
in the zoning inside the city, there's different setbacks. You have a front setback, you may have a rear setback, and you have side setbacks. So if your house was here, you may need to be 20 foot to your property line, 20 foot this way, 25 in the front, and maybe 30 in the rear.
Sure.
So that gives you your construction area that you can build on your lot. Depends on what size your lot is. What they've asked and what we done with the subdivision over here on Sunset Drive behind the storage area is we allowed the lot size, we could give a variance up to 15 foot right out, the city can. Our city inspections can give a variance. We went 7.5 foot for a total of 15 foot between house and house. Walker is doing 10 foot for a total of 20 foot on the micro community, and that they're doing, if you go where Ridgeland High School is coming off from Lookout, going towards Fort Oglethorpe, it's on the left there.
Yeah, I passed
They've
that
built townhouses on the other side. I think there's 160 of them, and they're doing their subdivision there, and they've done 20 foot. So when it's so new that we're finding out as well. And I think any builder or large place in any area, it's how strong your inspections division is and making sure that it's safe for the people that's gonna invest this much money for 30 years probably. Is it safe in case something happens if there's a fire and all the electrical and plumbing is done right because you're spending that much money? That's how we look at it. You know, not to say everybody cuts corners, but we're also helping that homeowner or that contractor that's building this area to make sure they're building a good quality home. You know, how nice they make it with customization and what they do that's different.
Right.
That's different things.
And I'll say, I'm gonna say what I said a while ago. We can pave, we can buy asphalt.
Yes, sir.
We can buy dirt. We can't buy water right now, we don't have a solution.
I agree
So that's
100
water is my
I agree
primary concern
100%.
for the county.
Yeah, and I think that's our future. That's the
Yes.
very first thing. It's
We
like
have no
air
answer
breathing
for
for,
it right now.
yes.
Like, we don't
Yeah.
have nothing in the works of getting more water.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we're getting them to see, because those tables, how much we're taking in and where else. And we've also got another source. I feel we should be utilizing some of Town Creek somehow. That used to be the original water source of the water plant before, but that's going down below stream.
Right.
So there's some other things that, yes, we need to be looking at. Athens-Clarke County is doing a big thing. They're working with, when I went to those two Water First meetings that we went to about some of these loans, they're working with one of their big quarries. And by 2030, they're gonna have, I think it's about 500 million gallons of water available
Out of a quarter.
out of a quarry, because the permit's running out and it's filling up, and they've worked out, and they're building infrastructure to it right now. So we gotta get creative. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, sir.
No, know, it's a little out of order. Let's wait till the end. I'm sorry. Okay, moving on, we have, appearances tonight. Lydia Sosi is the manager of the Dade County Public Library, but again, she is sick. Therefore, those are all online. We have Ms. Sandy White, President, CEO of Alliance for Dade, and Chamber of Commerce. That's an online presentation. And also Laura Beth Cunningham, 4-H agent, UGA Extension for Dade County is an online presentation. So feel free to go out and take a look at those. And when you have an opportunity, fiscal matters, monthly, we have the monthly financial report. I'll call on Mrs. Rebecca Jones to make that report.
Okay, you'll see your first page there. It's the account balance report as of December 31st, 2024. The general fund had a balance of $2,695,461. We had $1.8 million in the general fund certificates of deposit for a total general fund balance of $4,495,461. The federal asset funds, U.S. Treasury, had a balance of $0. The sheriff's special fund, $2,586. The drug abuse education fund, $8,292. The supplemental juvenile services fund, $30,049. Victim assistance fund, $2,436. Jail fund, $8,579. The federal assets fund, Department of Justice, $0. The ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Fund, has $105,798, and that does take out the 3 fire trucks. So I went ahead and just put that in, so that way we can see that's truly what we haven't committed. Then the accommodations, hotel motel tax, is $286,637. Employees flexible spending, $21,244. The payroll account is $255,471. Our 2015 SPLOS projects account, $61,039. The 2021 SPLOS funds, the projects account, $144,563, and the proceeds account, $1,712,588. Your next page is your general fund revenues by month and year to date. Our actuals for November is $3,346,456. We budgeted $3,413,444, so we were under budget by $66,987. However, year to date, our actual revenues taken in were $8,893,521. We budgeted $8,715,164, so we're actually in excess in revenues of $178,356. The next report is your general fund balance sheet by expenses for month to date of November. We spent $1,218,693. We budgeted $1,221,337. So we were under budget by $2,643. Year to date, we've spent $6,663.41. Sorry. We've budgeted $6,823,920, where we are under budget $160,878. Your next several reports, you'll see your local option sales tax for the last several years there. In December, we collected $249,477.43, and then for SPLOS for December, we have $311,808.98. So you can see how that's trended over many years, more than 10. Your next reports are your 2021 SPLOS tracking worksheet with all the detail behind that, and this is through November. And you also have your old SPLOS, your 2015 SPLOS tracking worksheet as well there, with all the detail behind it for the year. And then your final report is your Dade County Tax Commissioner's report. And for year ended November 30th, she has collected 74.06% of those budgeted of $6,189,000. That's the end of the report.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the report from Mrs. Rebecca Jones? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the finance report as presented by Mrs. Jones.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right. The motion's been made, moved, and seconded. Do I hear any final discussion?
No.
Have a motion, and let's see. Now I'll poll everyone. Let's see, Dr. Pullen,
Yes.
Mr. Hartline,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Motion is passed by unanimous vote. Legal matters. Mr. Robin Rogers, our county attorney.
I have none to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any unfinished business to discuss? Hearing none, we'll move to under new business. The reading of the minutes of the last month's regular meeting and any special call meetings will not be required since all commissioners have been furnished copies in advance. The minutes are public record and available for review in the county commission office. The minutes are also online, by the way. The minutes are included in the consent agenda and will be considered for approval under new business. I ask the county clerk to read aloud the items for consideration on the consent agenda, please.
Okay. We have the approval of the agenda as presented. We have the approval of previous meeting minutes. We have the review of the personnel status report. We have now resolution R-06-25, which is the reappointment of a member to the Water and Sewer Authority, Mr. Daniel Glacier, for a 4-year term, starting 1/2/25, going through December 31st, 28. We have an approval under SPLOS for various emergency services equipment for a total of $127,014.17 from Stryker. And we also have matching grant funds request from the Dade County Water and Sewer Authority in the amount of $127,000. We have resolution R-1-25, approving the tax anticipation on the line of credit for calendar year 2025. We have resolution R-2-25, a memorandum of understanding with the Family Crisis Center of Walker, Dade, Catoosa, and Chattooga counties. We have resolution R-03-25, which is the appointment of an ACCG County's Legislative Coordinator for 2025, and that's Melissa Bradford. We have resolution R-04-25, which is the Georgia Indigent Defense Services Agreement with Public Defender's Office for Mr. Jai Johnson, the Chief Public Defender. And we also have resolution R-05-25, which is the update of the financial authorizations on our bank accounts. That ends the consent agenda.
All right, is there any discussion regarding the items listed on the consent agenda as presented by the deputy clerk?
Well, do we change that to let her speak, or how would that come into play?
Well, we're in the middle of consent agenda
Yeah,
right now, so let's finish that.
And then, okay.
Hearing no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by Mrs. Jones.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion, a second. I will now poll each commissioner to have their vote recorded. Dr. Pullen?
Yes.
Mr. Hartline?
Yes.
Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The motion is passed by unanimous vote. Okay. This is not on the agenda, but would you like to quickly give us a...
I'm Jennifer Blair. I live in Commissioner Bradford's district. And I really just want to say that I don't think that we should in any way discourage civic engagement. This room is mostly empty, and it takes a lot of courage to come up here and speak into this microphone. And so I very much appreciate Commissioner Hartline and Mr. Chairman and Mayor Case addressing the concerns of this community member. I do think, however, the appropriate time to do that would have been before she was dismissed. I also think that if another citizen would like to continue a conversation that's initiated at this podium, that he should be allowed to do so, whether he has an opinion on the matter or not. I absolutely do not think that disrespect should be tolerated, so please don't hear me saying that. I absolutely respect each of you as individuals, as well as the seats that you're in and the position that you're in. I just think that we should be very careful with regard to censorship. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
My take on it is this, Jennifer. I think that any panel, committee, board, whatever little name there is for an organization like this that has leadership or management responsibilities, I think it is totally expected and worthwhile for citizens to take a look at that, right? And come forth with viable means and course of action recommendations, because we might not have seen everything. I think that's very worthwhile. So no one, you know, from my foxhole, I can tell you right now, I don't mind that, you know, and so I think that, you know, sometimes having a fresh set of eyes, right, from the citizenry, right, is very worthwhile, right, and can be very productive, you know, and I concur with everything you said, is that respect should go both ways, right, and that's how we'll operate.
I agree too. But you have to realize, we have 30 days in between each meeting for anyone to come in and talk to any of us at any time. And so, you know, feel free to do that. We have had certain people in the community come and seems to make the same report each month. And, you know, we have to conduct the people's business. And that's why we've been elected, to conduct the people's business. And so it's difficult. I mean, if we had a room full of people, I mean, where do you limit that? We're not trying to limit democracy. We're not trying to limit anyone's opinion, and we're certainly not trying to censor anyone. But you do have to have limitations within governmental bounds. And so I don't mean that disrespectful or hurtful in any way, but in order to conduct the business of the people, we have to move things along, and so that's the reason we have rules in place.
We do have text, email,
Yeah.
Phones. I mean, there's multiple ways to contact
Right,
us.
so-
And I'm always offering, please contact me, please.
All right. Do we have an executive session? Does anyone need an executive session tonight for any reason? No.
We got two other
I
items.
don't. What?
No,
I mean, I don't know that we necessarily need it, but we can if you want to.
the county clerk and
Well, do you want to discuss that in private or public? It's up to the commissioners.
If we can go into.
I think we have a legal right. What do you, Mr. Attorney?
For personnel, we do. For appointment of an individual, it's a little bit more difficult, but as far as the personnel issue, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
would.
it's a close call, but
Kind of like muddy water there, wasn't it?
So here's the issue with the county clerk. I mean, it's not just
You're right.
an employee, it is an official position. That official position does have some personnel functions, such as the records custodian and things like that. So that's what makes it a little bit of a mixed bag.
right.
I'm fine with discussing it out here.
Okay.
I'm fine with discussing it there.
Okay. So, no need for executive session, and that's good. So we'll move down to under new business. The next thing is the appointment of a county clerk. The way the enabling legislation reads is that the county executive will make a recommendation to the board, and the board appoints that position. And the reason that is the county clerk is responsible for not just reporting to me, but reporting to all 5 commissioners and having full access. So I have made a recommendation of a county clerk, and so I think we've all had a chance to talk to this individual. I will say this before I make that announcement. You know, since this is a public forum, her name is her name, she's, you know, got to go back to her employer and work out an arrangement for at least a couple of weeks. And so, we just didn't want any surprises by that. We went through went through an application process. I believe I came in September and spoke to the board. It might have been August, but it's September, I believe. Spoke to the board about the need for a county clerk. I had hopes, as the outgoing clerk, to have that person in place as soon as November, but it just didn't happen. Lots of things happened to me personally in October, health-wise and stuff, so I wasn't able to do that, and it's the way it goes sometimes. So we now have in place the opportunity to hire, let me back up. So then we did interview some folks, had that from the applicants received, and I am suggesting Mrs. Gidget Knight. She's sitting in the back of the room right now, and with her husband, Sandon Knight. Many of y'all may know Sandon. Sandon does a lot of contracting, different things in the community, and has for years. We graduated together, so don't hold that against us, either one of us. Gidget has been working for the Better Business Bureau for 33 years. Had extensive business in accounts receivable, accounts payable, human resources, and operations of that facility. And so that is my suggestion. I would like to open that up now for discussion. Actually, technically, we need to have a motion to approve before we can have a discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
And we're approving a discussion.
No, we're approving her to be the county clerk.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Yes. You know, when it comes to hiring anyone within a small community like ours, I think we need to look at the whole person and not just what technical capabilities they have. Because, and this is not belittling any of the duties that Ms. Knight has had in the past, but if you just get a spreadsheet, wirehead kind of person, right? You know, you can find them a dozen at a time, right? But I'm always interested in saying, hey, what are they like as a person? What are they doing with the community, right? Right, I mean, and that type of thing, you know, and the view from my foxhole goes through knowing Gidget from my son, Caden. And the great work, seriously, that Trenton Methodist does with children, right? And her and Ashley and the team there, well, they kick butt every time. It doesn't matter what it is. Whether it's Vacation Bible School, that little art thing, which I can't remember the right name for it during the summer, right? Whatever it is, right? It's always 100% and worthwhile. So, you know, I spoke to her. We spoke a little bit. Okay, what does it mean? What all you've done, right, at the BBB? But I feel very sound with that discussion. But also, we're hiring a good person, and I'm just as interested in that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So we also spoke, and there is there's much more to this role than pushing computer buttons. And Dawn has been a fantastic job of that, and I looked to him a lot in the beginning. And we discussed, you know, you got to kind of come into your own person in this job, and you got to stand up to all of us at times. So it's a hard job. So and I feel like Gidget is definitely a person that could stand up for herself and stand up for us and in the community for sure.
Any other comments?
I also spoke to her today and told her my concerns, and I'm good with it. I think she'll do what we need to do in the situation.
I've seen her at work in the church and the community, and I think she's not only a good person, but she's got a lot of good experience that could be put to work down here in the commission, in the county.
Mm-hmm.
I only have one bad thing to say about her, and that's she's an Alabama fan. But anyway, outside of that,
All right,
outside of that.
I renege everything I said earlier. Stop.
But there's always a chance for her conversion, but doubt it. But anyway, all right. Any further discussion?
I did overlook one of her recommendation letters.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
I told her, I said, we'll just throw that out, I won't hold it against you.
I got you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Gidget Knight as the county clerk for Dade County, Georgia?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. You are now the county clerk. Thank you very much. I'm gonna give you a hand. Look forward to working with you, Madam Clerk. All right. The next thing on the agenda is the election of vice chairperson of the Board of Commissioners. So just to summarize what that is, Robert Goff has held that position for many, many years. I guess 16 years. And, you know, when he first came in, he actually was elected straight out. He was, even though he was fresh to the commission, as far as a commissioner, he showed expertise in that field and his ability to host and hold a meeting. In my absence, I have no plans of being absent, but things happen in life that sometimes just happen. Just like last month, we were in a meeting, we had to go to mandates training, and it's just something we had to do. I mean, it's by law. So it does happen. So that's primarily the purpose of the vice chair in our county. Some vice chairs have different duties, ceremonial duties, but basically it's just to fulfill this and that role. So do I have a motion to recommend a vice chairman from these commissioners?
I'll make a motion to, like, to put somebody there, or is that,
That's what I'm looking for.
okay.
What was the motion?
Well, I don't know, go ahead, anybody else wants to.
To make a motion. I'm looking for a motion to appoint someone as vice chairman.
Right.
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Bob Woods.
Yeah,
Bob Woods. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, yeah.
Any discussion?
No.
Well, I got plenty, but I'm gonna withhold all of it. All right. Motion on the floor is to have Bob Woods serve as the vice chairman of the Dade County Board of Commissioners, Dade County, Georgia. So, I've got the motion and the second. Dr. Pullen, how do you say?
Yes.
Mr. Hartline?
Yes.
Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes,
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Any other business? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried, and we are adjourned. I bet the Georgia game's over. I don't know how.
Yeah, I think you'll be good at that.
I don't know if I just recorded or not.
Okay, that's what I want to.
No.